African Cocktail is a mixture of the best African values you can ever think of. And in this 56th episode of the show, we talk child education, fine arts, and of course the growth of the African television landscape with great strides made by entertainment shows. First, what is the future of school-going African children living in Germany? Does the education system of the country meet the needs of these children in a typical contemporary scene where global challenges arise? What other ingredients can be added to this system to tailor it towards meeting such goals? This and more are the salient issues participants at a one-day panel discussion will be looking into. Placed under the theme Our Kids and Their Future, the panel discussion will take place this Saturday, July the 12th, and will be overseen by the Cameroonian ambassador to Germany, Jean-Marc Mpai. Its main organizer and initiator, Miranda Oben, a Germany-based Cameroonian software engineer who doubles as editor of SG Magazine, explains the raison d'etre of Saturday's panel discussion and where she intends to take this project on. Myra, as she is fondly called, will be speaking live from the German city of Essen, just right ahead in this edition of African Cocktail, so don't go away. Now we're moving to Essen, Germany, where we will begin our conversations in this episode of African Cocktail with Miranda Oben. Miranda Oben is the initiator of Our Kids and Their Future, which is a children's conference that will take place in Germany this Saturday. And like I said earlier on, it will be presided at by Cameroon's number one. The person who represents Cameroon in that country, his name is His Excellency Jean-Marc Mpai. We shall soon be going to Essen, Germany to meet Miranda Oben to tell us more about this great initiative. So, Miranda Oben lives and works in Germany as a software engineer. She is the editor of the SG magazine, like I said earlier on. But this time around, she will be in a different capacity as someone who promotes the education of children. So, the symposium takes place this Saturday, July the 12th, 2014. There will be panel discussions and lots more. Miranda joins us in a few seconds to tell us about this great event that is coming up in Germany. Okay, let's see what we have. A few seconds to 11. Probably we go to Essen, Germany to find out if Miranda is already on the line. If you are with us, Miranda, guten Tag und willkommen.
Dankeschön, hallo zusammen.
So, how are you today, Miranda?
Oh, very fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm all right, thanks. So, Miranda, we hear that Cameroonians living in Germany are bracing up for an event that takes place this weekend, and we hear it has to do with kids and their future. Miranda, first of all, when you say our kids, which kids are you talking about? African kids, Cameroonian kids? Tell us, please.
Well, actually, yes, they are. The Cameroonians in Germany are getting ready to meet in Essen to discuss with the children. That's the main thing, discussing with the children, having them on the panel. And when we talk about the children or the kids in this matter, we're talking about children with migrant backgrounds.
Right.
You know, they grow up with about 2 to 3 different cultures. It's probably not easy. Look, take our son, for instance. He's 2.5, and to be honest, when my husband and I look at him, we pray for his future every day. You know,
right.
It's not, back then in Cameroon, we grew up with one structure, one background, one country. But right now, the kids are growing up with so many other nationalities around them. So preparing them for tomorrow, I believe, is really paramount. And it's just what you can give the child. It's not what you do for your children today, but what you have taught them, I believe, to do for themselves that will make them successful tomorrow.
Right. And I understand that one of the ways to prepare these children is via education, and you are very concerned about the kind of education they are going to have, or which they already have there in Germany. Now, I also understand that you'll be talking about the German education system and how it suits these children. Is there something which is lacking in this system which you think must be corrected to satisfy the needs of these kids we were talking about?
Well, going to the first point you made, yes, education is very, very important. I mean, I can't stress this enough, and I'm someone who believes very much in giving them a good, solid foundation in that, making them believe in it. So I always go with the words of Nelson Mandela, who says education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. So with that in mind and looking at the structure of the German system, it's not really like what is lacking, like you asked. It's more understanding the structure of the school system. You know, being in a new country, you go around learning new things, but it's only when you're confronted with your own kids that you start thinking, okay, if I understand the structure of the school system, I don't get a chance to make mistakes for my children. So, well, let me throw a little light on this. It actually goes with three main outcomes or tracks for students. It's just the complexity a little bit of the system when you don't know it from the beginning. You have like the apprenticeship, which is called in German the Berufsschule. This one leads to something like a blue-collar employment. Then you got the Realschule, that leads to, you look at it like white-collar or salaried employment, you know, something like a salesperson. And then you have the gymnasium, which is the best for the best students, which is followed by university studies and then professional employment. And yeah, in general, in Germany, I would say I'm impressed with the educational system, as in it always produces very highly trained individuals. But then it's just having each person fall in the right group. If, for instance, you have kids who are not allowed to go to the gymnasium, like you would hear sometimes when they tell them they're not so good, they would put them in the Realschule. So that's just to give you a little idea of what it looks like. So once more, the Berufsschule or the apprenticeship gives you skills like craftsman. The Realschule, you can become like a salesperson. You know, you go to the 10th grade and you become a salesperson. And then the gymnasium, you go now to university, become whatever, engineers, pilots, dentists, and so on. You know, you graduate with the GCA levels would be something like the Abitur in German. So you graduate now from the gymnasium with the Abitur, and then, you know, you go on to work then, like I explained. But the main disadvantage I see in the system is just that it's so rigid. It's so rigid. So if you take one path, it's hard to change your mind and then jump on to the next one. So the parents need to be careful into guiding the children to follow the right path. That's why we're having professional experts coming on Saturday to answer questions from the parents as well, and then discuss, share experiences in this event.
Yeah, it's so rigid, the education system in Germany, you say, Miranda. How has this affected African children adversely?
Oh yeah, how would you want to know that? You know, if you came here and you went to school and they told you, you know what, your kid is going to go to the Realschule. What I always joke about is when you hear Realschule, it sounds like a real school. So you're thinking, oh, that's amazing. But no, the moment you accept that your child should go to the Realschule, he or she doesn't have a chance later on to switch and go to the gymnasium where he'll graduate, go to university, and become what you want him to be if he's really that bright kid. But what actually happens is, some parents have fallen into the trap of, it's unfortunate, I would say it's a coincidence, in quote, that the African children, as you ask especially, get shifted to go either to the Realschule or Berufsschule, whereas you would see those kids are really bright. So it's some little selection which I don't like personally, and which many parents, if you don't know, will have your kid pushed into a lower category of what he can do. And that, I know Cameroonians are very bright and we've got really highly trained professionals here, but it's just that it affects African children in the fact that if you don't know about it, you end up seeing your kid land where you don't want them to be. You know, so in Germany, when the authorities pre-select your child like that, you would be able to fight. I know parents who have been able to fight back and prove that their children are really good and then go to the gymnasium, which is where you want your child to study. Another disadvantage now is some people have struggled, and whenever it didn't work, they have to send their kids back home to either Lourdes or Sacred Heart and so on to continue their education. So that's mainly where I see it affecting the kids, just that lack of knowledge, you know. When you can't fight the system, you don't even know the problems, then you end up having your child's future not as bright as you would have had. So that's actually the disadvantages for the African children.
So to redress all of this, Miranda, you are initiating a children's conference that will bring on board some experts to see how they can chart a way forward. How exactly is this conference going to look like? What are the things you are going to be putting on?
that question. That's a very good question because, first of all, having an idea is one thing, right? And implementing it is a totally different issue. When I got the ideas, because when I asked a couple of parents, and I was worried myself, my husband is worried, we're worried about our kid, about what they think about their children's future, I realized I'm talking to the parents. But then you have kids here who are already teenagers, and we have actually 2 graduates this weekend who are 18. They're the first generation of migrants here. So the structure we put in place is get some alumni associations from who are here in Germany, like I mentioned, maybe the PEMEXANs, the ex-students from PSS, Manchester, and then the groups we have at the university, so that we have children who can go to secondary school in Cameroon. The parents can ask the Chessans or Lessons or PEMEXANs who are out here, or just normal schools in Cameroon, what advice they could have. And then you have groups which are formed at the university level. They can talk now to these kids who will soon be in the university. Right. And then you have now groups like the engineers, the groups of engineers who are also invited to talk to the kids, who can later on join them, just so they see we do have role models in our society. But the main structure we're going to follow is we'll have, which is very important, a children's conference. You have 6 kids, 6 teenagers, the ages of 18, 16, 15, and 14, and another 14. And they'll be sitting on a panel with His Excellency Ambassador Jean-Marc Pai, and discussing about their future, what challenges they face, the opportunities they see, being here, if they see role models in the society as well, and then understanding the structure of the German school system all around that, where your kid would really fit in. That's what we'll be discussing. The possibilities, of course, like I've mentioned, of sending the kids back home in Cameroon. And for the first time in Germany, which is really great, we're having an open session at the end of the event where parents get a chance to ask the ambassador a main issue which is at heart, which is the dual nationality. Here in Germany, you're either Cameroonian or German. Give up your passport. So you have to. So if you say you're German, we want to see how we can discuss that with the ambassador. So it's a really strong point. Then we have guests like Dr. Stefan Liebing, representative of the Africa Verein, who represents 54 countries in Africa, and my humble self, of course. We plan to sign certificates of participation, which will, at the end of the event, hand to these kids. They can start putting in their folders and, using them for the future, for the professional life, the careers later on. So that's just roundabout how we'll be having the event on Saturday. And then parents now will wrap up the session by sharing personal experiences and best practices of what to do.
Right. Miranda, apart from just having the ambassador chair the event, what is the role of the Cameroonian diplomatic mission in Germany in this genuine cause you are putting up?
Thanks. Really, a genuine cause, because if everyone who knows me knows my weakness for kids. Everybody loves it when Auntie Mira is around because she's just going to spoil them. I've always had a soft spot for kids, so it's normal that my vision comes like this. And the interesting thing, and a really good question you've just asked there, is this idea or this vision was born during an interview I had with His Excellency in Berlin, something at the end of March. And, in my hobby as a moderator, I usually do that, interview some well-placed people just to promote ourselves, because I believe in like Chimamanda says, you should not always leave it a one-side story. Let's tell our own story ourselves, and that's what we're doing. So I'm interviewing these people so they can speak for us. And during that interview with His Excellency, it struck me that I keep on asking the parents what they think about the kids' future. And the ambassador is well referred here in Germany as, they call him Papa, actually, here by Cameroonians in the diaspora. They refer to him as Papa. So first of all, he's coming in his role as a parent to us, and then when he heard the idea of, I asked him in a live interview, would he support an idea where the conference now is a child's conference and children's conference, and he immediately said yes. Was so willing to join it. Yes, he said he loves the vision. He's had different conferences in all over Germany because he travels a lot in the country, but this would be something so innovative that he is coming as a father. And then the diplomatic corps, well, since he believes in the course of giving now a solid foundation to his children, as an ambassador, it just plays a double role. So that's why the diplomatic corps is actually going to be present. And I'm highly honored. I mean, how many events go on out here and you don't have the ambassador show up?
Right. I'm
really glad. We're glad.
So, Myra, a lot of things will be said at the event, and a lot of resolutions will be arrived at. Then you'll be faced with the implementation phase. Do you have the capacity, the resources to be able to ensure implementation of the decisions you are going to arrive at this conference? Hello? Okay, unfortunately, we lost our guest in Germany there. We were about to run off our conversation with her. Her name is Miranda Oben. She is the initiator of a children's conference that will take place this weekend in Germany, aimed at improving the educational system to suit the needs of African children living in Germany. Okay, if we are lucky, Myra would definitely come back to run off this conversation. If not, then we're going to continue with the 56th episode of African Cocktail, coming to you from Africa Radio with Ernest Kanjo this day, July the 9th, 2014. Okay, let's see what we have. Myra is probably back on the air. Okay, Myra, we are sorry we lost you. If you are back, let's know.
Yes, I am. Sorry. Traveling across the ocean, the sound waves somehow let us go. But I didn't quite catch your last question, unfortunately. I'm sorry about that.
So we were about to run off this discussion, and I was saying that lots and lots of things will be said at the conference. Then you will arrive at many decisions as well. So do you have the capacity and resources necessary to ensure implementation of the decisions you are going to arrive at?
Oh, yeah, actually, sure. We do have the capacity to do this, and this is just the first event. We're not trying to look too far ahead. We're looking at how it's going to be on Saturday, and then build on that. We do have the team in place, ready for any eventual implementation that could take place. But I believe the more success stories we hear, the more we see that, working and believing in such a cause, and the people hear how well the students of African background or any other migrant backgrounds are performing in school, they'll start believing what we're saying. You don't need to push us to Realschule. We are good enough for the gymnasium. We are good enough to study, go to university, become engineers and pilots and all whatnot. Yeah. So I do have the capacity for that, yeah.
All right, Myra, we are about to run off this conversation. Definitely there are people who are listening to you and would want to stop by on Saturday and share their own ideas and make contributions. So could you just remind us of the venue, the time, the date, and maybe what you expect from the general public?
Oh, yeah. Well, before I start with that, we're going to wrap up that event, actually, because I've had a lot of help from the African Ivory Foundation. I might say that the founder, Porter Delphine, and that day we'll be inaugurating the African Ivory Foundation Center in Essen, so that's something you won't want to miss. And I've had a lot of positive response from the other groups and organizations. So what I actually expect of the public is attendance.
Right.
You come understanding the purpose of this vision of giving a very solid base for our kids through the parents, listening to these children, making them more self-confident and believing in their capabilities and, kind of like being able to stand up and follow their dreams. So the venue is going to be the Adel Camp Strasse 61 in Essen. That's 45147 in Essen, and it's going to start at 2 p.m. prompt, really in that time, and it will carry on till 7 p.m. And I believe the vision of it, which is being carried on, bringing our children together, working together, which is very important. Unity is strength. I heard your song there with Prince Nico at the beginning, singing about unity. So actually, I just believe if one person can inspire the next to be the best, then we can be sure that we'll definitely have a great community and bring the change we want to see. So I basically would end by saying, everybody can be an inspiration to the person next to them. Yeah.
Myra, we thank you so much for stopping by and telling us about this very important event that concerns our children.
I was glad to be invited. Thank you.
Okay, Myra, do have a fantastic rest of the day out there in Essen, and we hope to have you some other time on this show. So, join Myra Saturday, July the 12th, 2014 in Essen, and share in this great vision. Okay, this is African Cocktail coming to you from Africa Radio with Ernest Kanjo. It's exactly 16 minutes past 11, and lots and lots of interesting items still coming up. Remember that we are going to kick off African Tele Review, a new slot we have on this show. So don't go away. You're going to discover something really interesting.
This is Africa Radio, #1 radio in Columbus, Ohio.